On this week's show, we're talking what we want to see from Thor Ragnarok, Sony's week in Paris, our thoughts on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and why is South Park still going strong after all these years? All this and more as we once again delve into the PCC Multiverse. And we are back for another episode of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And who is here to break down all the great goings on in the world of pop culture? But my good friend, he is the man, the myth, the legend. He is the Mjolnir Hammer of Humanica Media. It's Josh Peterson. What's up, my friend?
Not much, man. Hey, you just Mjolnir, huh? Didn't you see in the trailers for Thor 3 that it explodes? So I think you're predicting my destruction, and that worries me.
That actually worries me too, because yeah, it just like right there. I've actually already seen the highlights they've shown a lot of trailers on this one. If you look on YouTube, you can find a lot of stuff. I know you don't like to, but you can find a lot of footage already out there on the movie itself.
There's a lot of clips too. I noticed that like an unusual amount of clips, like a lot more clips than is usually shown for a Marvel movie.
Yes, everything from, of course, before Thor loses a lot of his gusto to just as when he's getting ready for the arena and in the arena with Hulk and even after that formation of the team, just quite a bit as well. Seemed kind of strange that they did it, but maybe it's for the best because it's already earned over $100 million overseas and it hits domestic theaters. This weekend, it's Thor Ragnarok, and we're going to break down Thor, what exactly we're looking forward to, because Josh and I both are getting ready this weekend to check it out, and we'll share our final thoughts on the Monday show, the Pop Culture Cosmos show, but we're going to share our hopes for Thor Ragnarok here in a minute. We've also got, coming up later in the show, our thoughts on Sony's week in Paris at the Paris Games Week. Check out what they were doing in the City of Love. But was it a good love fest for them? Well, we'll check out and we'll weigh in with our thoughts on what they debuted and what they were also showing off there at the conference a little bit later in the program. Plus three great guests stop by. As always, it's Christopher Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast. He's stopping by to share his thoughts on Week 9 in the NFL, and a lot happened at the NFL trading deadline, and we'll break that down indeed. Plus, my good friend Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast, which you can check out on flopcast.net and the ESO network. Check out his great show there. He is going to stop by, as we do once a year, with our thoughts. We're going to go back and forth on the nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who do we think is going to go in? And who do we think is going to stay out? Are we mad about staying out? Excuse me. And also, who are we mad about that should be at least deserving of a nod as far as a nomination? And, quite frankly, we think should already be in. We're going to weigh in with our thoughts on that. And then Jason Feinberg from Honeyqueen, check out his great podcast on the BS Podcast Network. Check out his awesome program. But he's going to also stop by to share his thoughts on why South Park still remains so relevant after all these years. But first, like I said, it's going to be a great weekend at the box office. The October doldrums are now, it's gone. It's been swept away. And what comes in its place but a great weekend indeed from Thor Ragnarok, Marvel's latest hit. It's like I said, already garnered over $100 million overseas, and it looks to do at least another $100 million this weekend. Josh, I need you to break it down for me. What are your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok as we go in there? We're both excited. You've been a bigger fan of the Thor franchise so far on the MCU than I've been. I'm looking forward just because I think for me it's coming at a completely different angle. For you, as someone who's enjoyed the Thor movies in the past, is this something you're looking to just as forward? You're looking just as forward to as well?
Yeah, of course. Like the first Thor movie, like Thor is a, I don't know if you've ever read his comic books, but his like stories take place on such an epic scale that it often takes over 10 issues to tell one story arc of Thor. Especially like his post Civil War stuff. Like it takes place after, because before the Civil War, he actually in Avengers Disassembled is when Ragnarok takes place. So like this movie, if you were to look at it in comic books, is supposed to be before Civil War. But anyways, after Civil War, like it's just this massive like reimagining of Thor, and I think that the movies never really did him justice as far as, you know, they showed Asgard and all that stuff, but like there's a lot more to like Thor's world than ever got shown in the movies, and I think that's where they always fell short. But you know what we've learned from Thor Ragnarok, you know, granted I haven't seen it yet, but like what's the guy's name? The director, YTT, or what? How do you say his name? It's
Oh,
I can't hear you. You're muted.
Taika Waititi. I was practicing it twice on that. Just
Got it.
Taika
Okay.
Waititi, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, what this goes to show, like, it's already a rating super high with critics, and I think this just shows us that, you know, you just needed the right talent to bring out the, you know,
Or is it Taika Waititi? Oh, we're just gonna have so much fun trying to.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it is what it is. What We Do in the Shadows is very funny. Well, because Thor has the potential to be funny, and he also has the potential to be epic. And I think up until now, we haven't gotten a filmmaker who can do something like that. And that's what I'm really looking forward to see with Thor Ragnarok. But, you know, as a fan, as someone who's not a fan, what are you hoping to get out of it?
Well, I do like that angle as far as the buddy comedy. And early on, when they were identifying it as kind of like a buddy comedy between him and Hulk, that part intrigued me very much as far as that dynamic. Like you said, Chris Hemsworth really has very, very good acting chops when it comes to the comedy aspect of it. I mean, he really tried hard in Ghostbusters and probably was one of the few decent examples in what was a lackluster picture. So I think he really looks like he's enjoying it from what I see in the clips, that he's enjoying this aspect of the character, that he's enjoying this angle of the Thor franchise instead of going ahead with the straightforward I'm trying to save the Earth, or I'm trying to save Asgard, or I'm trying to save the galaxy. And like the two previous Thor movies, which I found to be very disappointing. And you know, I'll tell you what, if you want to check out my thoughts on the Marvel Universe as a whole, I just updated it just before Thor Ragnarok hits. You want to check it out on our site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Yes, I will give you a hint. Both Thor movies are not exactly high up on my list, and that's because I found the pacing and the story, and basically the way his character's been drawn up has been pretty bland.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there's so much more to him than we've been given. He's a very epic character. There's a lot of backstory there, and there's also a lot of potential in the dynamic that they've created within the Marvel universe. And I think that we just haven't seen it properly brought to life, which really isn't, you know, it's kind of unfair because he's you know, he's at his third movie. I know the director said he wanted to do a fourth if he ever got the chance, but it's kind of a shame that we had to wait this long to see this character truly come to life. And, you know, whether or not he survives Infinity War, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, I'm hoping that this is the beginning of something bigger for Thor.
As am I. I think it's something that will hopefully lead his character into, well, but then again, it cannot be. I think he does have to go back to a little bit more of a serious nature when it comes to the Infinity Wars, just because of the dire nature of what Thanos is going to bring and present to the Avengers as a whole. Maybe his dynamic, which has been hinted with the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe that kind of dynamic will still play off that comedic talent that he has. And I'm hoping that's the case, because that's really, in this case, it's truly the best part of watching the Thor aspect of it is just the fact that when you see him in someone who's been so formal, so proper, even the etiquette and language, for instance, like what Iron Man had said in the first Avengers movie, Shakespeare in the Park. I mean, it almost came off like Shakespearean drama as opposed to anything else. So I'm hopeful that he will still be able to retain that kind of tone, but as it gets deeper into the Infinity Wars Part 1, and then whatever else they're calling Avengers 4, I'm hoping that he'll still be able to retain some of that comedic value. Do you think that's going to be the case, or do you think it's going to go back to a serious Thor because of obviously what Thanos is going to do, or Thanos is going to threaten to do to the entire universe?
Well, I think that the entire Infinity War saga is going to be serious, just because there's a lot at stake. Like, it's not just a continent or a city or an individual. It's the entire galaxy, pretty much, the universe maybe. And it's, it'd be, I'm not expecting a lot of comedy. I'm actually expecting like some, of course there'll be funny things in it, but it's probably going to be a lot darker than we're expecting it to be. And, as for Thor, like, if you look back, look at Iron Man, look at Spider-Man, even look at Captain America. You have these like when they were comic books, their origin tales are told back in like the 60s and 70s. So, in our time. So it's you have these completely different takes on the characters. With, Spider-Man, Peter Parker is like this nerd, and he's, sort of Leave It to Beaver, Wall-E-ish. And, you go back, and where do you draw the line? Like, where with Thor, like, where do you take that and modernize it? Because it's meant to be kind of archaic, I guess. So it's kind of, Thor was a tricky property to adapt, and, it could have been a lot worse than it was, to be completely honest with you.
But I am, for the first time, really excited to see a Thor movie, as Thor Ragnarok opens in domestic theaters this weekend. Like I said, it's already done very well overseas, and I think this movie will end up doing very well over the holidays, even though we'll be talking Justice League here in a couple weeks and Star Wars not too long after that. I still think Thor Ragnarok will find a place as one of the better hits this holiday season. What are your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok? We'd love to hear from you. Do you think it's something that it's going to help enhance the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Is it something you're looking forward to? Are you going to head out there to the movies this weekend? Does it bring you back in after what was a dismal August and also a not exactly thrilling October as well? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanican Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, like I said, it's going to be another great episode indeed. We've got Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast talking some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jason Feinberg from Hunnikween, he's going to share his thoughts on why South Park still retains its golden value. And also as well, Tyler Baker previews Week 9 in the NFL for fantasy football owners out there. Again, it's going to be another packed episode indeed, and we'll be back later in the program to talk about Sony's big week in Paris as far as the Paris Games Week is concerned, and how well they did, and some of the announcements that they made, and also some of the trailers that they show, and our thoughts on that as well. So another great episode happening indeed right here on the PCC Multiverse. We're so glad you could join us. And right now, it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without some music from our good friend, Plasma Z. And this is Level 1, and this is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show right here on the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And I'll tell you what, if for some reason you cannot catch us at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network, or our Monday show, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network, the Pop Culture Cosmos Show, which is the #1 show 8 months running on the Podcast Radio Network, that's no problem. You can always download our show or stream it off of one of these great channels. Just type in Pop Culture Cosmos and it comes right up on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, the Ace Podcast Network, Overcast, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, the Gunny Geek Network, Cast Crunch, and popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. And if you do download or stream our show off of those channels, we always throw in some extra content just for listening. But that's not all. Tuesdays on the Podcast Radio Network, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, it is Attack of the Humanigans. And I know last episode they had a Super BS Games cast that was definitely worth listening to. Josh, what do you got planned coming up this next week, these next few days, from your great outlet known as Humanican Media?
We have a new Super BS, new Inside Sports, and we also have an interview going up later tonight that Brian had with some Aztez Games, I think it's called. So check that out. That'll be up soon, and just follow. I honestly like it. It's kind of a spur of the moment now with these podcasts. So just keep following us on Facebook, and you'll be able to stay up to date on that.
That's right. Just type in Humanican Media on Facebook and Twitter, and you will get the latest updates on what's going on in the world of Humanican Media, including, Josh, what's going on with your book, which has the best title on the universe. Congratulations, You Suck.
It's being worked on. I figured National Novel Writing Month, I might as well make it National Novel Finishing Month. So a lot of the pieces are all laid out. They just got to be connected, and I'm hoping to get through that by November 30th. So make sure you hold me accountable.
We are definitely trying to do so, indeed, as per your request, not only here on the PCC Multiverse, but on social media as well. You are asking for people to nag the you-know-what out of you, and you know what? It's our duty to oblige that request. So, although you probably will not like me come November 30th. But we truly appreciate you joining us, and I'll tell you what, we're trying to line up some great guests indeed over the next few weeks up until the end of the year. We're going to hopefully be able to bring on lots of variation, and as we continue to try and do what we can to bring you the best shows possible on both the Pop Culture Cosmos and PCC Multiverse. So stay tuned indeed. Something to look forward to there. But another thing to look forward to is all the great stuff that Sony has planned for its PlayStation 4 and, yes, its PlayStation VR, although I'm not quite as excited for that. But I have a PlayStation 4, so I'm kind of excited what's coming there. So, Josh, I ask you, Sony was actually at Paris Games Week with a major conference that they had, a major press conference that they had, with some great announcements of some upcoming games and some games we already knew about, with some great new footage added. So, in your opinion, what stuck out at Sony's week in Paris?
To be honest, I didn't get to watch all the trailers, but I think the stuff. I know, man. I have to like get this.
I sent you the abridged version, man.
I need this stuff on like Monday or Tuesday when I actually have time to sit there and watch the news. But I'm excited about Spider-Man, and it looks good. When will be? They haven't given us an official release date. 2018 at some point is the what they say they're aiming for, and then there's the The Last of Us Part 2 looks cool. And then what was there was a game that was Ghost of Tsushima.
That's correct. Tsu Shima. Tsushima. That looks like it's going to be like a samurai warrior type deal, and that just looks really, really good. That was at the beginning of the press conference, and that just wowed audiences because they weren't expecting a brand new title from that, because that looks like it would be a major player, if not domestically or in Europe, but at least it will be in overseas. I think actually it will be very good here if it does well from a critical standpoint as well. Then also, like you said, The Last of Us Part 2 really, really looks strong with some new footage, with some new characters involved that I wasn't expecting.
Yes, I still got to go back and play the first one. That was like before I got a PS4, so I have it on my shelf. I just haven't played it yet. I've been playing a lot of Super Mario though. But anyways, yeah, no,
wrong company.
Wrong company. But yeah, and they also showed a trailer for what I'm assuming is going to be the last Final Fantasy 15 expansion, episode Ignis.
Yes,
and
yes.
That looks really good. You know, I'm curious what they're going to do after that, because I know they don't have any more DLC lined up after, you know, it's going to be like Comrades and then episode Ignis. So what is next? Are we going to see more Final Fantasy 15, or are they going to start, you know, getting us hyped on a new Final Fantasy entry? You know, there's also, like, they announced a whole grip load of VR games, but I'm not seeing a strong market for VR, because a lot of the games I've seen that have come out have been incredibly flawed, and people reviewing them are like, hey, these games are incredibly flawed. So I don't know what, you know, what the demand is for these, but they just keep pumping them out. And I don't know. It's not. I think it's going to go the way of motion gaming, where people you know, they're excited about the prospect of it, and then it's just going to sort of fizzle out. Because, you know, look at the Kinect. That was sort of, in a way, a hybrid type of VR, but now it's gone. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to buy any, so I could care less about any of that stuff.
You're right. PlayStation VR has sold over 1 million units, and it is the best selling of all the VR devices currently out on the market. But if that's your claim to fame, is selling out over 1 million units, that's not really worth much crowing about. And you're going to see a lot of little games, indie games, still trying to attach itself to this marketplace, but larger and larger entities are going to stop actually investing time into it. I know, I believe Valkyrie's VR end of it, as far as the company that does the production studio that does Valkyrie, they ceased production on VR and will get out of the marketplace. That, I think, from paraphrasing here, the next 3 or 4 years, because they want to see what the marketplace is for VR. I just know it's something that not a lot of people are going to be interested in. It's nice to see Sony still trying to push all these smaller titles onto the marketplace of VR, but it's really not getting a hold of the general consumer. It's certainly not interesting me at much. Even if Switch is coming, you know, even if Skyrim is going to be on a VR experience, it still doesn't interest me. And I don't know. It just doesn't look like it's going to move the needle no matter how many games they push, because larger and larger entities that once were very intrigued with the VR marketplace are not going to be investing too much into it, because they see the sales of Oculus, of HTC Vive, and of course the PlayStation VR, and say to themselves, I'm not going to commit a whole lot of resources to that kind of smaller marketplace. So that's probably why it's not moving the needle much for me or a lot of other people as well. But there were some good things to see. Detroit's Becoming Human. Did you get a chance to see that? As far as the video there, it was some really, really very serious stuff that was being talked about in that brief clip, but dealing with issues and domestic violence concerns that really just are not brought up much in the game. But if they're done well could be really something that could be educational, informative, and really something worth playing. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think with that game, like we're going to be seeing a sort of interest in a social commentary type storytelling that we haven't seen since PlayStation. So PlayStation 3's Heavy Rain.
Gee, I wonder who made that. I wonder
Yeah,
who made that game.
yeah. They. I mean, they're good at
Cage. There you go.
They're good at storytelling, and I'm excited to play this game because it's still kind of mysterious to me, and it seems like it's got a lot of layers and depths. And it's one of those games that's actually going to make you think, as opposed to just playing through it to get from one side to the other. So, it's on my to-play list. I would like a release date. That's one thing they are very terrible at. They said all the games, because all these games they showed at Paris, they showed at E3, and they promised us sometime in 2018. So I'm hoping, eventually, it's almost 2018, so they're going to have to start telling us when these games are coming out.
I think they said Detroit Becoming Human. I may be misquoting here, but I think it does. I think it was a spring title, but that's still kind of vague, so that doesn't really give much inference. But oh well, it's at least it's something, like I said, that's going to be very thought-provoking. And you're right, David Cage, who did create Heavy Rain and is working on Detroit Becoming Human, obviously has got Sony's blessing to push the envelope and make something that is truly thought-provoking, and hopefully along the lines of what you played with Sesuna, Hell's Sacrifice, right? Sesuna, hold on.
Yeah, Hellblade.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say it right again. Hellblade, Susuna's Sacrifice, which in its own right was something very thought-provoking this year and was better for it. So I'm hoping for that same type of mentally intriguing and invigorating type of game instead of just button mashing and things of that nature. So definitely looking forward to that. We got to see some God of War footage as far as from the mechanics and also the combat. So definitely was enjoying that aspect as well. And the game looks really beautiful. We got to see more of Horizon Zero Dawn as far as the latest DLC for that. So what did you think, as someone who has played the game and really enjoyed it, what did you think of the latest DLC that's coming out for it that was shown off at Sony's Paris Games Week?
It looks good. It looks like a very large piece of DLC, one that it's going to take a lot of time to play through. And I'm hoping that as far as the story elements go to it, it's enough. Because from what I understand, this is going to be the last DLC or the last and only DLC that they make. And so I'm hoping that it's big enough to kind of, quench that thirst until, whenever Guerrilla Games decides to make another Horizon entry, if they do decide to make another one. But the first game took a very long time to play, so I imagine any sort of DLC would be big, and I like the different type of setting. It's kind of reminds me of Ice Age in a way. But yeah, no, I'm excited about it. Did you ever get a chance to play the game?
Not as of yet. It is on my to-play list, and I'm hoping that there'll be some sweet deals later this month at Black Friday, and then especially, I know that there is a Game of the Year version coming out for it that will encompass all the DLC. So I'm trying to hold off for that. So definitely looking forward to be able to get my hands on that as well. Plus Spelunky 2, I know also as well Guacamelee, a new Guacamelee in the series. It was announced as well, along with several other games. If you want to check it out, we've actually have posts all over our social media on GameSource. You want to check that out, GameSource on Facebook and Twitter. You'll see it on the news feed right there. Monster Hunter World got a lot more information and a great look, including some Horizon DLC added to it as well, which was kind of a surprise. And, of course, Spider-Man, which you said you were really interested in looking at. And this looks to be kind of a really good open world version of Spider-Man that also tackles the Miles Morales issue as well. Tackles from the aspect of the character of Miles Morales as well.
Yeah, and from what I understand, you can also play as Mary Jane. I like open world games. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Neversoft Spider-Mans. You know, Web of Shadows. I really like that, despite the bad rap that it gets from people. But yeah, I know you almost need to you almost need to have an open world game if you're going to tackle Spider-Man. At least that's my you know, my views on it. But yeah, no, it looks like they're taking good care of the characters and you know, doing it tastefully and not. My hope is that you could play. There's a story for each character, so you don't have to like keep changing out if you don't want to, because I feel like that could ruin the pacing of the game. But you know, at this point, a lot about it is still pretty vague. So I was just curious to hear more. The game mechanics look really cool. The you know, as far as the web slinging and the dodging and all that good stuff goes. But you know, we'll see. It has to all flow very well to be a decent Spider-Man. Because I remember some of the ones on the PlayStation 2. Remember, they're kind of bad. They're kind of really bad.
Kinda is the understatement of the day.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, here's to hoping the game is good.
Well, I think Sony acquitted themselves quite well, and they definitely needed to with the Xbox One X coming out virtually any day now. And also as well, Super Mario Odyssey selling over 2 million copies already in its first week of sales, which is just blows all expectations for Nintendo, and definitely something that's come out with a great deal of hoopla and well-deserved because of it. So definitely Sony needed to have a good press conference, and I think they did. It can't be their main one for like they do at E3 or even sometimes the PlayStation Experience, but definitely had a very strong showing at Paris, and definitely Paris was the city of love for them because Paris gave a lot of love for them and appreciated everything that they were putting out as far as potential new games, potential new add-ons, and also as well new VR titles as well that are coming for those platforms. What are your thoughts on Sony's week in Paris at Paris Games Week and their big announcements in their press conference? Definitely want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter. Did you think they did enough to satisfy a lot of the people that are going to be either buying or have a PS4 this holiday season? Because PS4 prices are really going to go down. And in fact, rumor has it that they're actually even going below the $200 mark for even 1 terabyte unit. So that's something to look out for indeed for people who are on the lookout for PlayStation 4. Did it make that difference, and did it slide you and sway you into buying a PlayStation 4? Or for those who have a PlayStation 4, are you kind of happy now that that's something it looks like on the horizon after not so good past couple months with exclusives, that there are stuff on the horizon that, sorry, pardon the pun there, that are going to keep you invested in your PlayStation 4? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Just let us know. We'd love to actually read them on the air if you want. So just give us a holler at Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter, or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Before we head on out, I've got a retraction or a correction. Just wanted to let everybody know on the Pop Culture Cosmos show, the episode that we had that aired on Monday, I know Rob and I were in the Cosmic Crossfire. Just wanted to, we were talking about the Star Wars VR attraction that's coming up, that's going to be built near the Disneyland area. He kind of alluded to, and I think Rob and I were both under the inference that it was going to be in the park. Actually, it's going to be put in downtown Disney, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Josh, since you're right there in the Disney area, then downtown Disney?
Sorry, what were you asking? I was just reading. Sorry, I was reading a thing about Tyrese feuding with The Rock. But what was the question?
Star Wars VR. There's a Star Wars VR attraction that's being built in downtown Disney, which is adjacent to, but not in the actual park itself. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I want to say I read that they were doing a special Last Jedi themed Star Tours, but I didn't know that they were doing something else besides that.
I believe it is. Rob was talking about it, and then I got some information additionally that he thought it was going to be in the park, but I got some additional information that it's going to be at the downtown Disney area, which is adjacent. So in theory, you're still spending $30 a shot right before as you're going to go in the park, but technically you're not paying once you're inside the park, but you're right next to it, so you're probably going to go in there anyways, but because that's how Disneyland and Disney, that's how they get you. That's how they get you. But definitely wanted to make that correction before we head on out. But if you have any questions on that, please let us know. We can talk about it further or give you more information on it as per your request. Just send us a shout out. Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source as well. So, Josh, any last thoughts on the way out on a great weekend with Thor Ragnarok hitting the big screen here in the U.S. and, in North America?
Yeah, I'm getting it. Dude, it's like media overload, man. There's too much going on. Super Mario, Assassin's Creed, Wolfenstein. I'm still in the midst of all those, and Thor Ragnarok. So it's there's a lot to do, And then you got new Justice League coming out, and you have Elder Scrolls and Doom on Switch. So it's just, save your money, man. Save your money. You're going to need it.
And just to let everyone else, there's also a movie coming out next weekend, which may not be, I'm hoping the reviews on it will be good, but may also be worth watching. And I'd really like to see them, see it do well. But I will give my thoughts on that next week's PCC Multiverse to give you a heads up then. But we're definitely looking forward to a great weekend with Thor Ragnarok, and we will provide our thoughts because we will have both seen the movie by then for our Monday show, The Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford, and it's another beautiful day right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself finger. A great day.